Thank you, everyone, for joining this session's live event. The question of this event is, what does it take to change career from the adrenaline-pumping world of motorcycle racing to the highly technical and creative environment of professional photography? We are here to interview Arizona-based professional photographer Thomas Ingersoll, who spent part of his life racing motocross before he hung up his helmet and picked up a camera, and he's never looked back. He's blushing a little bit here. He is an internationally published lifestyle, fitness, and portrait photographer, and he's carved a niche through highly individual work, polished, engaging, all about capturing people and places. And we're going to interview him in this event about his path to becoming a professional. Thomas, welcome. It's good to see you.
Yeah. Nice seeing you. Thank you again for having me on. Looking forward to, sharing what I know. And, I'm always a big fan of community, and I've taught a lot over the years and always like to give back and help people see, that you can make a career out of this. It's hard because there's no right or wrong way, but there's definitely ways to make more money than less. So always happy
Oh,
to share what's worked for me, and hopefully, people can take what works for them and make something out of it.
That's great.
great, great. More money than less is always something that's interesting to
Yeah.
hopefully our audience. Co-hosting this interview with me is our dean and faculty member, Dr. Meryl Epstein. My introduction to Meryl is like Shohei Ohtani. Meryl is a dual threat, as she trained as a designer before earning her MFA in photography. So she's ideally positioned to be our lead interviewer in this interview. So welcome, and Meryl, take it away. It's yours, all your show.
Well, again, Thomas, thank you for joining us. We were really fortunate to discover your work. And when I was developing a class BFA level photography course, I came across your work and I was like, whoa, this guy's interesting. We should interview him because what I like, of course, the quality of the work is terrific.
Thank you.
But the variety of the work and also your background, this, as Gordon mentioned, you weren't
Yeah.
born a photographer. You like the sound of engines. So you have portraiture, you have landscape, you have video, just you focus in technical skills. You've even written for Stopper, an online magazine. So, you know, that 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 variety,
Mhm.
because I've always said to people, even when I was getting my MFA, I learned not only how to make work, but how to live a creative life. So
Yeah.
that being said, what are you looking forward to the remainder of 2025, but also the coming year and beyond? What are you going to focus on, or what are your goals as far as your business goes?
Yeah, absolutely. I've really focused on a lot of technical stuff over my career, and with without getting into the weeds on this question, it sometimes makes your work too dry, and I feel like I've kind of made my work a little void of emotion and connection, and so I've been really spending the last year and working on next year to make the work feel more empathetic and close to human connection, especially with the drive of AI and artificial images, and it's just it strays too far away from why I got into photography. And so just working on less technical, more pursuit of emotions, and from like a more professional standpoint, working on more of a directorial role. So, motion's been a big part of my career in the last couple of years. And so just focusing on kind of upping those talents and those skill sets in a directing position.
That's great. Oh no, that's excellent. Please share your presentation about your work.
Okay. So yeah, it's going to show two shoots. The first one's kind of a fun project that really got me interested. Probably one of my favorite projects I've done in the last couple of years. It's for this Vilcek Foundation, and so the foundation give grant money to immigrants who excel in science and art. So the approach of this project was we photographed 11 people, and my job was to get portraits of them, just them in their environment, and the kind of action shots of what they do. And so this was a decent size shoot for budget for me, but it was kind of a small shoot when it comes to production. Because we shot 11 people over 11 days, I spent almost the whole month of October in New York because that's where most of the people were based out of.
Mhm.
I had one assistant. So really, really small. My lighting kit, there's 2 to 3 lights, everything that kind of fit in like what we call a coffin case. It's about maybe 2 feet wide, 5 feet long. We travel on the planes with those. Has, light stands, 3 lights in there, a couple octa boxes, and then some gels and stuff like that. So pretty small, kind of run and gun. Each person that we'd have for maybe a couple hours, which would include showing up to location, scouting where we can shoot, and then getting kind of a variety of shots with each person. So again, pretty unstandard for commercial photography where you're usually shooting, something for 10 hours. You're on set for 10 hours, which the next project I'll show is more in line with that. So yeah, and then kind of the source of this job was the producer who was producing this for the foundation. I worked with her on a job in Phoenix earlier this year, kind of for another really fun shoot, some portraits for librarians. But it was kind of a small shoot budget wise. And I hopped on it because it seemed fun. And again, kind of my whole thing with relationships is, especially again in this industry, and really any business, it's not, business isn't money, it's people, and so building relationships, building long-term trust. And so I delivered back in January, February, this project. Everyone was happy, and producer thought of me for this job, and so brought me out to New York again for a month. And so I accrued quite a bit of cost for that. I had to stay out there and work as a local, which again, kind of not standard, but sometimes you have to do it to make the job work. But it's a decent budget, 55 grand for, all in. And it took home about 35 grand after day rates and usage, with about 140 images delivered, and the client ended up buying some more. So I'll kind of get into the shots now. So this person is a assistant DA for New York, and kind of a high profile person, district attorney. And this was one of the toughest ones that we had. He won some, like, recovered some Greek artifacts. And so he spoke to like the news outlets for like maybe 15 minutes. And then I had him for maybe 4 minutes. And so I really had to be quick and ready to go. And I had an assistant with me. We had, some lights built. And so the first two top left shots, these two were like, this one was while he was given the talk. And so stuff like that, just looking for framing, stuff like that. It's all natural light. There's no strobes, nothing. It's just the environmental light, some detailed shots. And then these two portraits, this was kind of the hero portrait that we were after, is at the Greek embassy. And again, I had kind of planned that spot out while he was giving his presentation. And I got him there. He was not wanting to be there, and he was polite enough, with his time and everything, but he just seemed like he had some other stuff to do that day. So we got that shot off, and then I asked him, because again, my deliverables for the foundation was variety and diversity of images.
Sure.
So I asked him if we could just go by the window and just try and get some better, light and some different shots. So we went over to that window that's behind him, and that's where you kind of see this profile almost shot of him. And I got one shot off. And so, on this setup, I had one strobe on a 3-foot on a monopod that my assistant was hand holding, just because there was people in the room and it was busy.
Yeah.
And so we went over the window and we started lighting it. And again, I didn't have time to troubleshoot and light over there and have him walk into it, which I would normally like to do. And I took one shot and I started making adjustments, and you could just tell he's kind of frustrated. And he kind of gave me an eye roll, and not to try and, talk poorly or anything like that. But you could just, some people, don't like being in front of camera. And they'll, so I just ended up turning off the strobe, not fussing with it. And just that window shot, that black and white, is just all natural light.
Great.
These two, and I kind of go back and forth, but these two they're fashion photographer twin brothers, and they work together. Really, really fun, beautiful work, but fun guys, really fun creatively to work with. And so again, these shots, we went to each one of their homes and got some just shots in their home environment, what inspires them. And then we chased them around on a shoot that they produced. And so
Right.
it's kind of just an amalgam of these shots. So, I love this framing, just kind of, on the nose of like, framing up, but I thought it played well. Yeah. I'm always looking to deliver to the client, but I'm also always looking to deliver to me. And sometimes those worlds overlap and sometimes they don't. And so, like, this shot on the left here is something that was for me. It's not anything that would fit the mold that the client wanted, but this is an image to me that will like live in my portfolio and help me
Beautiful.
feel like I am producing work that I admire and that I love. And I always recommend that to people. Always, obviously, shoot for your client first, get that, and if there's time, shoot for you, because your portfolio, you want it to be you, not all of the client's direction. And then because over 5, 10, 15 years of career, if you never shoot for you, you're never going to have a strong body of work that's unified and through the persona and the vision of who you are.
Right.
And so I'm always looking for that. Same with this kind of like this silhouette shot of the photographer and the camera. I
Hmm.
get the tree. I just really love that. Yes, these were really fun. All these outdoor shots are all natural light. Uh, we didn't have time much to light, but these indoor shots, a couple lights. Again, I think we had Profoto B10s on a 3 foot. Usually just a quick bounce up at the ceiling as a room fill. Usually ends
Sure.
up working really well.
It's great.
This woman is, I forget her exact role, but she is an instructor over at FIT,
Mhm.
and she's done a lot of research on the kind of the old fashioned catalogs. And so she's done a lot of like research on the databases and stuff like that. You can see her in front of all of them here. And so again, this was a room that was, a lot of these, it's tough where as a photographer, you have to really learn on shoots like this, the least amount of gear that can do the most amount of lifting. This room was really dark, really warm. And so luckily I had enough lights. I had two B10s and an A10, I think, or the A1, which is a really small speed light. Ended up working, just making sure that all the strobes, we gelled them all to color match all the overheads. So everything felt like it was all part of the same world. I don't like my lighting to look like it's like strobed or staged. I like it to look like it's part of a real environment. That's always been a big influence for my lighting. And so that's kind of what motivated these. And then this one is like, she loves this. It's a thread and needle through a button, kind of a statue in New York. So we went over on one of the streets and got that portrait of her in front of that.
That's great.
This was another person over at FIT. She curates the museum over at FIT. And so, we got some shots of her in front of some of these installations, which this one wasn't gel or lit at all. This one, we had one light on, her in the auditorium,
Hmm.
and then her in her office, and then outside the front. So again, these are pretty quick setups. We're setting up for maybe 5-10 minutes, shooting in each spot for a couple minutes, and then moving on. Because we got all these different looks within a few hours, showing up, looking around, what's shootable, and setting up, shooting, and moving on. So pretty
Right.
quick. She does research on biomedical, I think, what is it? So I think stuff to do with fetuses. Anyways, over a professor over at Yale. And so again, one of those things where I think we had maybe 3 hours with her, which was great, but got some shots of her in her lab and then outside on the campus. So, and again, these are all lit, just a couple lights, gelling them. I always travel with kind of a hard source and a soft source. That way I can kind of blend the two, or if I need one or the other.
Great. Oh, interesting.
Beautiful.
This is a fashion designer. His was really fun. You know, again, we shot some of these are just at his home. Like this right here was just against the wall in his kitchen with two lights. Same with this one down here, just a wall in his kitchen. And then this is the little shop that makes all of his pieces.
Nice.
So, and this one was just one light, gelled, 3 foot octo over here on the left. So again, pretty minimal gear, minimal staging setup. All these, like anyone with $1,000 worth of gear could go out and shoot any of these.
Great.
This one was one of my favorites. He is a fashion designer, pretty well accomplished. Peter Doe, if anyone knows fashion at all. But his thing is that he doesn't show his face, which I thought was really fun. And so it's out of he wants people to focus on the clothes and the garments and what the company represents, and not him as an individual. And so, a lot of these you can see he's kind of wearing just a mask. But for portraits, I wanted to just get some without like the mask lines and everything. So I just had him flip up his collar and get that shot. And this was definitely a shot for me. And I was really, really happy with the results on this. So, and then again, I'm always looking just for, simple framing too on some of these that just tell a story, get the job done. But this was another image down here in the bottom middle that was for me. Just looking for fun, unique ways that no one else can replicate. Just finding
Mhm.
these mirrors in the staging room that he has and shooting into the mirrors with him, dressing one of the pieces to me was just really fun and narrative.
That's great.
She does the designs and makes like fake leather. It's called Comtech. And so there's a lot of research and like this machine, I forget the name of it, but it does the stress testing of materials. And so they can see if it'll, last over time. And so I thought it was just really fun. She uses scissors a lot, so using that as a prop. And this one was a lot of fun. I mean, this whole project was so fun because everyone's from, it's just, it was amazing. And this is kind of why I fell in love with photography, really, is just all these people were from different parts of the world coming over here to America and finding a career, making something, really, all these people in really difficult, hard to get positions. And it's just so beautiful and so wonderful to see, all these people and what they're doing. So yeah, so here's some behind the scenes. 90% of the time, 99% of the time, I'm shooting tethered. So I have my laptop here just on stick. So I'm walking around with that. I usually don't shoot to the back of the camera. It's just, especially when clients on set, even though there's no budget for like a Digitech, just making
Mm.
sure that everyone can see images, everyone can, myself, client, can all voice their opinions quickly. And we can, because that's kind of Gordon to your point is like, we'd shoot some frames like, oh, we don't like this red book that's distracting in the background. So let's pull that.
Right.
And if I shot to the camera, you wouldn't be able to see.
Right.
So yeah, here's some more. And I mean, this was pretty much my light setup for almost all those, was just a 3-foot octa.
Hmm.
So yeah, here's that window shot. And again, we took one frame, didn't work, and I'm just pulling it and just using all natural light. You can see here, yeah, 3-foot octa. These were gelled all with about half CTO. That's a big thing with me is just making sure that light color matches across the board between ambient and strobe. And if it doesn't match, it's intentional. And so, lighting is definitely one of those things where, you can make a lot of creative decisions, but you have to make the decision. You can't just let it happen, right? So it's like if you don't like something, you have to know why it doesn't look good. So you have
Right.
to sort of dissect everything like, okay, I don't like this light. Was it the shape, the color? Is it the direction? Is it the quality? So I'm always you can see some gel just taped on the thing here just to be ready to swap it out fast if we need to. That's kind of a wrap on that shoot. I don't know if you guys had any questions on that, anything
No,
on there.
it's great. And I really appreciate you showing the behind the scenes. That's really helpful for our photo and digital media students. They just love, the nitty gritty of it and the emphasis on mixing light. You have to be intentional. And I always say, don't go, oh, I'll fix it in Photoshop. Get
Oh,
it in camera
always.
because garbage in, garbage out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And and there's a small window of things that if you can't fix it, obviously Photoshop's great to solve things you can't fix. Or if there's just no time, it's better to get the shot than no shot. But yes, the approach must be get it right in camera. That is the good foundation to a home.
Yeah.
Right. And so, my big thing just on lighting, real quick too, is just matching the already organic light direction in the environments. So you can see
Right.
there's a big window here. So I put my key right on that same side of the window. Little room fill here at the ceiling. But that's kind of my general approach is to always A, short light things, but B, make sure the light direction is matching what's already organically there.
That's great.
It's amazing how naturalistic they look, considering how much gear there is and how
Mhm.
much thought process. When you pull back from the camera and you see 3 or 4 lights, and you're like, oh, okay, wow, but it feels both polished and natural somehow.
Yeah, it's just I think it's important again just to find the balance, right? It's not overly lighting with your equipment and it's not trying to just to rely on natural light. It's finding
Mhm.
where you need to add light and block light where you don't want to, where you don't want
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And it's
Right.
just learning that delicate balance. And it takes a long time, and it takes every shoot that I do, I'm always questioning what can I do better. I mean,
Sure.
holistically, but obviously, especially with lighting. So this is another shoot kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum where it was very highly staged, very highly stylized, big crew. So this was about $75,000 budget for this shoot. The objective was to take, I think we did, yeah, so 20 different looks on 2 revolving sets on 2 stages. So the revolving sets means that, we'd be shooting on 2 different sets. And then when I'm shooting one, the other one is being dressed and changed. And then we go shoot that one. And then the last one that we shot would be changed. So 2 days of that. And photo and video, take home was about 25K. But like this one, there was $10,000 in lighting equipment rentals and about 20 head units between photo and video between both sets. So lots and lots of lights. Crew on this one was about 13 people, 1 pre-light day and 2 shoot days, photo and video. I was directing the motion. And in this one, I got the job through a local producer that I've worked with a lot in the past, who's a good friend of mine. She's great. And yeah, I've done some other kind of work for furniture companies. This was for wood paneling, but kind of fit the bill. And yeah, she thought of me. So deliverables on this was originally 50 images, but the client ended up loving the images so much that they bought 32 additional images.
Great.
So it was another great way to, make a little bit extra more money on this.
Great.
So again, my approach to lighting is really just making it look natural, making it feel believable. Like these are real world environments. Like we just went to someone's home and shot, and these are all shot in the studio. And again, when we get to the BTS, you can see that. But lots of lights. I mean, this I can't recall. Let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 9 lights on this, all with different modifiers and gels and stuff like that. But yeah, lots of equipment, lots of lights. So, and obviously these ones are a little bit more, again, and sterile too. Like it's not like the most exciting, but these are jobs like this that pay the bills. And I really get excited on jobs like this to make it look as beautiful as possible.
Right.
But I'm a portrait photographer. I love portraiture, and that's where, like, as a commercial photographer, you just have to be ready, I think, to you're a business and you're selling services to clients. And you can definitely you can niche into certain things depending on your market. Smaller markets have a tendency to need more generalist. Larger markets you can niche in a little bit better. And here in Phoenix, we're kind of a small market for
Yeah.
photography. And so I take a lot of jobs, to pay the bills and do stuff where I'm shooting stuff like this, where a client needs, shots of their wood panels. And how can we make that look as cool as possible?
Right.
It looks cool.
Thank you. So yeah, so same thing here, just lots of lights going through. We got like overhead ultra bounces, so shooting light into that, lights coming through the fake windows we have here on the left, making sure that it all looks believable and motivated. I like a lot of gobos, things that create light and texture. So always usually adding something kind of in front of the light to kind of break up patterns on the wall.
Of course, this might be obvious, but the subject is the panel on the back wall,
Correct.
right? Everything else is just sort of staging in front of that.
Correct. Yeah, and so that was, the kind of the fun part too is just how do we make these a wall be the hero?
Yeah.
A very, especially in photography, you usually want to show depth, right? And you want to show kind of a not so 2D framing and composition. And so when you have to shoot, not that every one of these is perpendicular to the wall or parallel to the
Mhm.
wall, but all these the wall panels had to be the hero. So trying to create interesting light textures and staging. That's where, like, and for commercial photography, we had a set designer on this. We had a set
Right.
builder on this. We had a prop stylist. And so that's where, no photographer, especially in commercial photography, is a one-man band. You have everyone's playing a role and they're doing their role well. And you gotta trust, and obviously you speak up and I like this, or let's change this. But it's really trusting and getting a good crew and a good team to come together and make a really good finished product for the client. So none of these images would ever be what they are without all the rest of the crew. So I really, really am grateful for all them. So here you can see, like, these are big rooms, this was a big stage here in Phoenix. So we have this white overhead. This was a 20 by ultra bounce. So we got 4 heads blasting in that just to create some soft light overhead. We have the set wall here with multiple heads shining through that. And then we'd have a second wall, which you can't really see back here, but light going through that and matching that kind of on both sets here. So then you can see it. I'm a very hands-on photographer, sometimes to a fault, where I have assistants to do something, and if I have the second, I'll go and run and do it. I'm very much, try and lead by example and not just by authoritative, you know, command.
Hey.
Yeah, so a little video, but you can see it, right? Where
Correct.
he's-
Oh, no, it's 3 back. That's what's recent.
What's
I
happening
moved the
here?
camera, huh? So you can see there's, lots of people on set. I think between client, crew, everyone, there's probably close to 20 people there, all doing their job. Digitech is organizing files, giving them their naming conventions, looking for any, obviously, things that need corrected and fixed. He's my first assistant, Brian. He's amazing. I actually used to assist Art Stryber, who's another, probably like the commercial photographer. But so he brings a lot of knowledge to me, which is really, really, amazing and makes my life better. Where, I think it's hard as a photographer early on, you have to wear all the hats. And until you can make it to a point where you can start hiring people who are better than you, like
Right.
Brian is a great lighting tech, a great first assistant. So he teaches me things all the time of how I can refine and make things better. And so it's just such a great working relationship with him that we, you know, get the best results possible.
It's great. I have a question just logistically. So to get the job, you probably had to bid it, right? And so you priced out, how many people you would need for it. And then when you got the job, did you meet with the team before the day of the shoot so you guys could prep or, what was the logistic process?
Yeah, so I mean, this one was a little bit individualistically different from most shoots I do. So because the producer who got me the job, she bid everything out for the
Nice.
client. She actually won the job, not me,
Okay.
which is not typically how things go.
Right.
And so she threw out a couple different estimates and didn't ended up we were too high. And so we actually ended up making some cuts just to get to this. And yeah, so we made some sacrifices on that. And I actually ended up just the pre-light day was not billed in or estimated in to the final job. We had to cut that from the finances. But the producer and I just kind of took a cut out of our cost to pay the crew to show up on a pre-light day.
Yeah.
Because we knew for how many 20 different sets, photo and video, we weren't going to get all that done and light all of those into
Right.
it. So we made the sacrifice and the call to hire the crew out of pocket for a pre-light day. Again, not something that's great. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Take home was still good enough for me, and I wanted to just make sure the client walked away really happy because, again, their headquarters are moving some stuff here to Phoenix, and so it could be a
Right.
chance to grow the relationship and have ongoing work. I'm really big on that. I've had a
Sure.
lot of clients over the last 3 to 4 years, post COVID, really. Usually I have about 2 to 5 clients that are happy to spend, you know, almost, sometimes up to 6 figures each through routine work throughout the year. So you
Nice.
get 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of those and like, you start making comfortable money and you can actually grow into your career. And I'm always looking to find ways to get clients to keep coming back.
Well, and like you said, they originally thought they were only going to purchase a certain amount of images, but because the quality of the images were what they wanted, they bought more. And I think that investment on the front end paid off in the end and in
Yeah.
the future, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's obviously using discernment to figure out when you should apply that, and it can be
Right.
really hard early on to know to have the wisdom to know what's beneficial to you.
Right.
But I'm always looking for ways like I've taken really cheap jobs because I knew it would be great for my portfolio.
Sure.
And not that you should use that as textbook and do that all the time.
No.
But you should use discernment. It's like, okay, well, maybe it's only a 4,000 job or $2,500 job, but I'm shooting this person and it's a very recognizable person. They'll look at my book
Right.
and humans are predictable. And if they see that, you look more commercially viable, blah, blah, blah. Stuff like that. It's just always using discernment to figure out is a job worth it or not. Because sometimes jobs don't always pay in money. And not that paying in experience is a good way to undercut photographers, but not every job is worth turning down if it has a low budget, is all I'm
Right.
saying.
No, it makes sense. It depends on if you have a job that doesn't pay as much, but it's going to get to a lot of eyeballs.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
again, sometimes it's worth I've taken on jobs where big national brands like Asics where, like, I did a job for Asics that was pretty cheap budget. I was out in Northern Arizona for a couple days and, I got to take home a couple grand, but it wasn't great budget-wise, but I got to shoot for Asics and shoot some Olympic runners, and I have a lot of clients who, when they go through my book, those are some of their favorite images, so,
Yeah, it's great.
yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
So, yeah, so that's kind of what I have for that. I can stop presenting now, though.
No, no,
Very
that's
good. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I
well,
mean,
It was fascinating and beautiful.
thank
And we have a lot of questions that come out of that.
yeah, yeah,
If it's okay with you, we'd like to frame it sort of within the context of a career discussion.
yeah.
Many of our students are aspiring photographers or digital creatives, and so I'd like to just start with like how you got into photography. You were a motocross rider for some part of your life,
Yeah, yeah.
and you made the transition into photography. So can you kind of wind the clock back?
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit about how you discovered you had the talent and how you got started into photography.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, I had a dirt bike or some sort of quad or something since I was like 3 years old. And so I rode my whole life and didn't even know what photography was. I finished high school, I was going into college, and I was doing pretty terrible. School was never for me. And so I just wasn't doing that good, but I was still racing a lot. And I just, I've always loved the magazines. And I used to work as a butcher at a grocery store. And so, like, going to college, worked as a butcher, would race dirt bikes. And I'd spend probably way too much time during work hours looking at the magazines, and I just wanted to start taking photos of my friends at the racetrack. And so I took my dad's old 35 millimeter Minolta camera, and it's a film camera. And so I went out there and took a bunch of photos that didn't turn out because I had no idea how to use film. And so I just, I because I was in college, I was like, oh, I'll just take a photography class, and I really, really fell in love with it. And I've never had like I think some people have like a very clear side of their future when they're young, like, oh, I want to be, work in this industry or this type of position. I never
Hmm.
did that. I just was very much more free form on just kind of being more present in what I'm doing in the moment. And that was the first time that I was like, I want to do this. Like, I really love this. And so I just started taking photo classes at Glendale Community College out here. And then I kind of maxed out all the classes that they offered. And again, for me, I wasn't in pursuit of a degree. I was in
Hmm.
pursuit of education, so I just started taking all of the different types of photo classes that Maricopa County Community Colleges offered. And so I just started going to like 3 to 4 different campuses a semester for many semesters to take all the photo classes I could. And so that there was like at one point I think I was at like 4 different schools in one semester because I just loved it
Yep.
so much. And there's nothing else that I just never saw myself working a 9 to 5. So
That's cool.
When you were developing your talents through these 4 classes at 4 different colleges, like what were you learning? You were focusing on the technical side, the creative side? Was that everything? You were just kind of trying to consume everything.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to consume everything, but I was always really early. Like early on, I was enamored with lighting. Like I just didn't get how I could look at an image and how people could achieve some of those things. Like I just
Hmm.
made no sense to me. It was almost like this unsolved mystery that I had to solve. And so I got really, really obsessed with just learning strobes, learning lighting. I started 15 years ago, and it's not that long ago, but like technology's come a long way with lighting. And so
Yeah.
back when I started, there was like not a whole lot of portable strobes that you could take
Right.
off location. And so I'd be taking like these big heavy batteries out into the desert and just doing whatever it took. And same thing with my interests. Like I didn't really have oh, I want to do this type of photography or this type. I just love taking photos. And so I would go out I drive. Arizona is great for landscape. So I would just drive a couple hours and see look up these cool locations and just take, landscape photography. And so, yeah, just so I can learn more.
Well, I think I want to dig into the beginnings of it. When did you get your like first break, or you go, I'm a photographer? Did you have a mentor? Just sort of how'd you get your foot in the door kind of experience scenario, if you could share?
Yeah. So there's kind of a couple different little nuggets I can share on that. I mean, I spent, so after I finished up school, I shot weddings for a little bit just because it's an easy barrier of entry to make money. But it was never an interest. It was just more of a means to an end, make some money. I need to, I was getting a little older and need to make some money. But in the meantime, like I learned more about commercial work. And so I started, bringing a very terrible portfolio around to ad agencies. And so I spent years, maybe 2 or 3 years, just kind of doing walk-ins. I would just walk into an ad agency, I'd research them, ask for a meeting. A lot of them would tell me no. Or the ones that did, meet with me, they'd humor me, and yeah, I know my book was bad then, but they were polite, but I did that for about 2 or 3 years. And then my first commercial job was not through that, but my second job was I'll get to the second one. But the first one was I don't even know how I think they found me online,
Mhm.
and it was a gym out here, Mountainside Fitness. And I think at the time, I want to say the budget for a 2-day shoot was like 12 grand, which to me was like blew my mind. I was like, well, this is amazing. Yeah. And I had no idea what I was doing. I had two people helping me, two assistants, but they were very green as well. because I didn't know the right crew at the time. But client ended up being happy and they loved the images. And so, that led me kind of into my next really kind of big ad agency job. I think it was about 6 months after that. Kind of all those meetings finally paid off. This ad agency reached out to me to place a bid on a casino out here.
Nice.
That was like one of the first times where I was like, I have no idea how to bid this. I didn't know what it took to like what positions on my crew do I need? Luckily, I met a really great friend of mine through F-Stoppers early on. His name's Clay Cook. He's a great photographer out of Louisville, Kentucky. One of my closest friends. And I called him up because he's been always a little bit further in his career than me. And I was like, hey, man, I need lots of help. And so he helped me, write an estimate together. And I think at that time, I want to say it was like 5 or 6 images. And I think the job was about 18 grand for 5 or 6 images for a 1 day shoot, and won the job. And yeah, it was just taught me a lot. I've hired some better crew at that point. And yeah, it was a really successful shoot. Ended up shooting with that ad agency for years. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you make a promise and you fulfill it and hopefully exceed expectations. But
Yeah.
don't make promises you can't keep. And for sure, like Phoenix, it's a smaller market.
Yeah.
We think we're a big fish, small pond kind of thing, but news travels fast if you don't keep promises. And I think that's the key.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, and it's compartmentalized. Like for me, there's a lot of aspects of being a photographer. It's obviously delivering great work, but it's also being very professional, and that's sometimes quickly, that was one of the biggest things I learned early on was there's just a lot of people who are not professional,
Hmm.
whether it's through their language, how they communicate, how they present themselves, how they show up, how they just manage projects. They seem to be absent of knowing that they're really hiring a business. They're not hiring a person. Like,
Right.
Mhm.
and I think that sometimes it gets conflated. Like, yeah, photography is an art for sure. But in this day and age and what commercial photographers do, these companies are spending money to market themselves. And so they want a professional person to show up and do the job right. And hopefully it doesn't come with too much stress and because a lot of photographers can get just very unprofessional. And it shows over time. A lot of people just don't want to work with them anymore.
Well, actually, on time means being early.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, all those, just don't let your emotions come through, be professional, lead the set, speak to
Yeah.
your crew members politely, manage expectations. I'm always a under promise, over deliver person.
Yeah.
So if it's, what can we get 6 shots in a day? Oh, okay. That's for sure. I know we can do that, but I can deliver 8. So stuff like that, where versus like, I tell them 8 and then we can only get 6. They're never
Yeah.
going to want to work with me again. And so it's
Well,
just always learning how to set those expectations.
it's so important. The soft skills and technical skills. Quick question. When did you venture into commercially presenting video as well as still images? How did that come about?
It really was just post COVID. So many clients were needing video.
Hmm.
The photo industry has changed a lot in
Yeah.
in different iterations in different ways over the last 5 or 10 years. And one of the biggest things is photo and video getting combined
Yes.
onto the same shoots. And so then that can happen in several different ways, which, now it's photographers, sometimes they have to piggyback off of big video shoots. Sometimes it's the opposite where a client wants a photo shoot, but they want to add some video to it.
Right.
Sometimes it's a little bit of this, that. So I started having a lot of clients reach out to me and saying like, oh, we're spending 25, 30, 40 grand on a photo shoot. What does it take to add video to this?
Hmm.
And so I started realizing when I was saying no, I was losing work. And I love photography and I would always do it, but I also love making money and having a career. And, it's one of those things for me, I thought I had to adapt and learn. And so I just started saying yes. And again, just hiring the right people to put in,
Right.
hiring a producer who knows how to produce motion sets and how to budget those appropriately, and
Right.
hiring a good DP that's a good camera operator, and really just be a curator and a director rather than having to be like know all the technical aspects of video. And granted, there's a lot of people who are really great motion directors and DPs. The ceiling is so high on that. But for
Right.
the clients that reach out to me, I'm very confidently able to fulfill their needs.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that's influenced by the need to not only have stills, but video for social media. So, on that end, how do you promote yourself through social media? What's your strategy? Do you have a consistent strategy, or is it what is your thinking on that?
Yeah, I try to. I mean, for one, I don't really share too much about my like personal interests. I'll share behind the scenes, and sometimes, obviously, I share a little bit of who I am, or I'll, just so
Sure.
people have context of who I am. But that's really important to me. And then I try and be consistent. I schedule out posts. I'll spend a day, usually every month, to schedule out posts for the next month or two, so that posting looks routine and active. I'm always showcasing and sharing like who's involved in the shoot, so that that the community absolutely gets recognition, but
Hmm.
also people see that who's working and who's a part of the stuff that I'm creating.
Yeah.
Because again, it's not just me. But yeah, especially in this day and age, it's a free marketing tool. Like,
Right.
not every photographer gets money or opportunity from social media, but I know some who do, and it costs nothing. I mean, it costs your time for sure,
Right.
but even that's pretty marginal compared to what real marketing costs can be.
Oh, no, of course. And I noticed that too with your website. Like the one website has a lot of your commercial work, and then somehow I clicked through and I found your landscape. So
Oh,
it's like it's another site. So I think it makes it, if you separate things, it makes it less confusing for our client who's looking just for commercial work,
mhm.
and you can always give them the link. So is that sort of the strategy of what you've done with your website?
Yeah, and I mean, to be transparent, so I have 3 websites.
3. Okay.
Yeah, and so it's kind of speaking about that small market, big market thing. Here in Phoenix, it's a small market, and a lot of the creative want more, how do I say this? Less bold or less risky style photography. Very commercially viable images that they can plug and play into all their different,
Right.
clients. And so I have my site that caters to that. It's very clean, it's very commercial, it's less artistic. And that has been a decision more recently because I do have a couple of photographer friends here who are like, I have one photographer friend who's, I think, a far better photographer than me. I think he's a great photographer. I mean, it's about 10 years my senior, but he doesn't get as much work as I do because I think a lot of creatives here have a hard time registering where to put him.
Right.
He can, he has all the technical skills I can do. He can do it. They just don't see that he can do it because they see just the more artistic, creative
Right.
approach. So I have a website that caters to that. I run Google ads. I market myself to be searched locally, and
Mhm.
that's what I sell myself here for. And then I have another site that's more creative that I'll use to when I do portfolio reviews or when I set up meetings like in New York or Chicago. I'll show them that website. If I'm going to Leo Burnett or these big ad agencies or Peloton, like
Mhm.
I show them this stuff because they know that you can do the work.
Right.
Like they're flushing out 1,000 photographers. They know you can do it. They want to see who you are and what you can do uniquely.
Right.
And so sometimes it's learning what market are you in and then catering to that because sometimes the two worlds don't meet and it can be hard.
Yeah, you have to departmentalize. Well, that's really helpful. And then along those lines, if for our students, they're preparing their portfolios. So if
Yeah.
they're how would you recommend? And I think we talked about that earlier when we met. Oh, what would you recommend? What advice would you give to our students that are current and also close to graduating, preparing their portfolio? How can they stand out? How can they get their foot in the door? What advice would you give them in this world now?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I think there's a few things, and I'll try and dissect this as best I can. One is just having a vision, right? Like, and having an appropriate vision. Like, if you're going to be a fashion photographer, shoot fashion and learn the industry, learn what is in trend, what people buy, what people like. If you're going to be a lifestyle photographer, shoot lifestyle stuff. If you're going to be a product photographer, shoot product and showcase those things and learn what works in that industry. It's going to be hard for people especially earlier on. It is tough because you kind of just, you're still learning what you like,
Mhm.
but try and have cohesion. Maybe at least how you would light things seem to be the same. Like, there's a photographer I know here who she does a lot of kind of gritty, harsh light, but she does that for her product and for her lifestyle portraits. So it's like they kind of look like they're the same person.
Mhm.
So trying to have uniformity throughout your body of work, try and start to clear cut a path. into the type of work that you want to do, whether it's corporate, medical, that's a whole world, or if it's more, you know, leisure and lifestyle, that's like a kind of a separate world. So just start to learn and cater your portfolio to that. This day and age, probably have maybe some sort of motion elements. You don't have to, but again, you're probably leaving money on the table if you don't. Uh,
Right.
so if you can incorporate, even if it's like 3, 4 second clips, little tiny motion clips, even go a long way. That helps. I think, and this is always a trend that goes, it vacillates, every 5 to 10 years. But I think right now, people and art directors like to see projects
Right.
if you can kind of show the whole project, and you don't have to like muddy your whole site with too much work, but
Mhm.
have like a small page that people can click into projects and they can see, oh, here's the 15, 20 images from that project. And so I think that seems to be a little bit more popular again. It wasn't for a while, now it is. But, and then a big one really too is, and this isn't visible, but this is more through conversation when you're meeting with clients. It's, we've kind of reached a day and age where a lot of photographers are just hired hands now, and they're getting put on sets where they have no creative input. And I've hired photographers for companies in the past. I like to talk to them about their approach, and are they influencing the stuff that they're shooting, or are they just kind of set, a set of hands on the shoot. So I think it's just, yeah, being able to articulate, here's my creative vision, here's how I approach things, here's how I like to shoot. And did you like that? Did you do these things, or is this someone else?
Yeah. Well, and then just working in the community. Are there organizations or groups that were really valuable that you met peers to bounce ideas off of? Or other folks in the field that you've relied on? I don't know if that's something that's been part of your experience.
Yes and no. I mean, I've learned so much from everybody, but I treat everything the same. I don't know if there's one group, but I would say like early on it was f-stoppers. I think that's kind of fizzled out over the last couple of years,
Uh-huh.
maybe 5 years. I don't think the community's that strong there. But I learned a lot just there. And then locally, it's just working with crew. So it's talking to them, working with them. Even if I'm put on a job where I'm behind, like I'm over the shoulder of motion, I'm
Mhm.
talking to the grip, I'm talking to the gaffer, I'm talking to the producer, I'm befriending them, getting to know them. And then I'm actually shooting a job next week, a 4-day shoot from a producer that was here on a job that I shot 5 years ago. But they're back in Phoenix, and I talked to the producer then, and they bring me back on. So I think it's just really just, and there's organizations like here in Arizona, there's APA.
Mhm.
I think APA is nationwide too. So
Mhm.
look for your chapters, and yeah, just learn the crew positions, get to know them, and yeah, APA online though. A photo editor has a good forum for just information, not necessarily community, but lots of free information.
Yeah, I mean, the key is that no one knows everything.
Yeah,
And I think if people don't see everyone as competition, but maybe as colleagues, not, eventually you're competing against other people, but you really want to be a part of the community, especially students, newly graduating. I think there's opportunities for them to find mentors.
Well, I wanted to say that I mean, first of all, fantastic advice on professionalism, how to handle yourself, how to start your career. A number of students or attendees in the room, and we had a few student questions that we wanted to answer at the end.
absolutely.
Maybe we could do that in a rapid fire format to make sure we get everyone's questions answered.
Yeah.
Nick asked in the chat, he said, how do you handle outreach in today's online world? He was commenting that you seem to have a great range of clients. So are there some keys to how you kind of reach out to those prospective customers?
Yeah, I mean, quick answer to that is locally, I run a lot of digital marketing. A lot of time with SEO, Google Ads, stuff like that.
Mhm.
That's I would say that probably brings me in 75% of my work.
Wow.
Outside of that, managing social media, and then outside of that, it's still looking for, so there's companies that will host portfolio reviews. It's kind of like speed dating with between creative directors and photographers.
Perfect.
Those are always good to go to, and so yeah, I do a lot of those a year too, probably 20 of those a year.
Very cool. So folks are really admiring your retouching. And
Wow.
so Jarrell, did you hone your retouching skills on your own work? And, or was it, did you work with other photographers and learn the skills that way?
I learned early on from a couple of photographers / retouchers. A good friend of mine, Chris Lambeth, taught me a lot early on. Pratik Nayak is a retoucher out of Houston. Taught me a lot. And so he offers a lot of great education, and I think for free too. So he's a great resource to look into and find. But yeah, those two. And then I pretty much do almost, I'd say 90% of my own retouching these days. So still do most of it myself. Actually, I'll take on retouching work for other photographers sometimes if I'm
Great.
As a separate thing, not even with your camera. You would do a retouching job.
Yeah, I mean, I probably did 25 grand in billing this year in retouching other work.
Nice.
Wow. Wow. Okay, everyone who's in the Photoshop and Lightroom course, I hope you're listening to that. Finally, from Tiffany, she asked them, what would you say are the top threes or don'ts for starting out in your career if you were to look back?
Do's, the top 3 do's and don'ts. Oh man.
Hard question.
Be consistent.
Sure.
That's paramount. Be open-minded and be professional.
Yeah.
Those are top 3. Don't is just have a bad attitude or entitlement. You're not
Yeah.
owed anything. Like even if even if you've earned it, you still don't. This world, nothing's promised to you. Every
Yeah.
day is a gift. Every opportunity, every interaction, make it a pleasant one. So don't have a bad attitude. Don't badmouth too much. Gets around. Don't be negative.
There's
I
a
think you learn these don'ts by observing other people.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
We thoroughly enjoyed this, and thank
Great.
you so much for lending your expertise to the world.
Yeah, happy to do so. And if anyone ever wants to reach out to my Instagram, I'm always happy. I always meet with people. I try and respond as much as I can on Instagram. But yeah, I'm always happy to answer questions or be a part of the community.
That's great.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
so
much,
much.
Thomas.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Oh, our pleasure.
Good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.